Hello and welcome to Scotty Kilmer Live Car Talk Podcast, where I use my 51 years experience of fixing cars to answer all your car questions. Yes, I've been doing it 51. I just had my 65th birthday on Tuesday. Now, don't be worried that I'm going anywhere because my grandfather, he was working on cars when he was 85, and I'm in better shape than he was, so I got at least another 20 years left. Remember, during the show, ask your question in the live chat. I'll pick the best ones and answer them. First question is Michael Martin. Michael says, Scotty, love your show. Will green slime or fix-a-flat ruin the tire pressure monitor on your car? And can a side tire shop change out one with no problem? Okay, here's the thing. If you get the later versions of the fix-a-flat and slime, you'll notice they say tire sensor safe. So that means that yes, they're safe and you can use them, no problem. As for can a side tire shop change out one of your sensors? Well, they can if they have the equipment. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. It's called TPMS, the system. And you got to have a special computer. Well, Scotty's got one. I got one of these. And it can reprogram the things. And most good shops, especially a tire shop, they're going to have a machine that can reprogram them. If they don't, they can't. But most good shops have a machine that will reprogram the stuff. That's the way the world goes these days. Next question. Hey, Scotty, I bought a rebuilt steering rack off eBay, and it seems like it has play when I'm driving on the left side of the road. My steering is off. It's had an alignment. Okay, well, it had an alignment. If the guy did a good job, odds are you got a bum steering rack. Personally, I would not buy any rebuilt rack to begin with because they're very hard to rebuild, and especially not off of eBay. Power steering systems, the pumps put up like 15 to 1,800 pounds per square inch pressure. That's a lot of pressure. If somebody attempts to rebuild the rack that was leaking or worn, all they generally do is take them apart, put new seals in, hope the steel and the other parts are still good, and then sell them to you. Personally, I only use brand new ones. If you want it done right, you use a brand new one. If you buy a rebuilt one, you're taking a chance, and especially if you're buying one off of eBay. When it comes to expensive parts, I don't advise buying them on the internet because, hey, what recourse do you have? If you use a local auto parts store, they're standing in front of you, and they got to give you a return and take care of you. If you're sending it away to somebody halfway around the country or halfway around the world, good luck getting an exchange if you bought one from China. Next question is Chris Perkins, and he says, Scotty, what's the best way to find a good mechanic like yourself? Okay, it's hard to find a good mechanic these days. There's no arguing it. I'm the last of a dying breed. I learned from my grandfather was a mechanic, and we care about our customers. These days, there's hardly any independent good shops lying around. Most places are affiliated with a dealership or they're a huge chain, and the people that run it, they put all the workers under intense pressure to sell things to the customer so that the people that are doing the work, they'll get a cut of what's sold. So, of course, they're going to tell you you need $1,500 worth of work because part of that's going in their own pocket. It's very hard. Now, I've never advertised in my life. It's all word of mouth. So ask your friends. See how they use. Look around. You know, read reviews on the internet, but of course, unfortunately, you got to take it all with a grain of salt because I know a guy down the street, and when his workers aren't busy, he has them going on the internet pretending to be other people, saying what a great mechanic is when he's actually a lousy mechanic. So a lot of stuff on the internet you can't believe that you read anymore because everybody knows, that people are putting false reviews on there just to get more people to say good things about him. So you really need it, your friends, word of mouth. Find somebody, then talk to them, and find an older guy like me or a middle-aged guy that has experience, Experience beats everything when it comes to fixing anything, just like a doctor. I once saw a doctor who was 25 years old, and she was an idiot. She didn't know what she was doing. When I said, when did you get your diploma? I looked on the wall. There it was. University of Houston. It was the year before. And I said, no wonder you've never seen anything like this before. You've only been doing this for 1 year. You need experience fixing cars, too. Next question. JM says, can a downstream oxygen sensor cause poor performance on a brand new catalytic converter? It can if it's bad. The first oxygen sensor, the one before the catalytic converter, is the one that has the most input. It tells the computer, is the engine running rich or lean? Then it compensates how much fuel the fuel injector sprays in. Then that mix is burnt and sent through the catalytic converter. Then the one in the catalytic converter checks to see if the catalytic converter is doing a good job. Now, if you had a bad catalytic converter, say it burned up from oil burning, that oil burning can ruin the oxygen sensor on that converter and give a bad data. So if you change the catalytic converter and it was really crowded up inside, I would change that oxygen sensor that's on it too, and pray that that's the only thing that does it, because you have to realize that catalytic converters and oxygen sensors are part of a very complex computer-run bi-directional feedback system that measures remnants of oxygen in your exhaust gas, and it monitors it, and then it tries to make it go richer or leaner by changing how the fuel injector spray fuel into the engine. It's a very complicated system, and even a professional mechanic, sometimes it could take them days to figure out what's wrong with the system. You try the simple things first, and always use OEM. Don't buy some cheap Bosch fits-all oxygen sensor. Buy the one that's made for your car. Next question. Austin Naranjo says, hey, Scotty, I got a 97 Camry with 146,000 miles. The tranny fluid looks dirty. Don't think it's ever been changed. Should I change it? Okay, what? That's a 22-year-old vehicle. You got a 22-year-old vehicle. If you want to change it, just drop the pan, change it. The filter's just a screen. Clean the screen. Put it back in and put all the fluid out that came in with new fluid, the same amount. Measure what came out, put the same amount back in. A Toyota isn't like an American car. The American cars, they all shed clutch parts in them, the automatic clutches. And if you did it on an American car, it would probably start to slip. The Toyotas aren't made that way. So generally, if you do change the fluid now, it's not going to make it start to slip like it would if it was a Chrysler or a GM or a Ford with that miles. It's never been changed. So I would change it if I were you. But just change it and fill it up. Don't flush it or anything. Next question. Yvonne Keshik says, my ex-husband is giving me a 2003 to 4 Honda Odyssey. Is it a reliable vehicle? No. Those vehicles had one of the worst automatic transmissions ever made, and some of them had problems with the cams wallowing back and forth because they weren't built right. Sounds like your ex-husband is trying to give you a screw job more than what he did before, then you're not married to him anymore. Those aren't very good vehicles. You don't want something like that. If you get a choice, go for a Honda, go for a Toyota Sienna van. Those things can run forever, but not those Odysseys. They weren't that well made. Every customer I had that bought one of those never bought another one. Next question. Samuel Larson says, Scotty, what's the best way to replace the inner boot on a CV axle? Okay, you got a CV axle. There's an inner boot, there's an outer boot, and there's a drive shaft in between. To replace the inner boot, you got to take the whole shaft off, take it all apart, put another boot on. But you got to take it apart anyways. The aftermarket CV axle assemblies, the whole freaking things, you can usually get for $59 to $79. Aftermarket ones that work perfectly fine. I've been buying them for decades from AutoZone. I never got a bad one. They've all been great. They fit. They work perfectly fine. I never had one break and had to replace it again. So you might as well just buy the whole thing and then everything's new. Why bother with just changing the boot? Because the boot's going to cost you $30, $40. Then you got to take it all apart and then you got to pray that it isn't worn because the boot's ripped and the grease leaked out. Just replace the whole axle and you get everything new. You don't have to think about it. That's what all mechanics do these days. Next question. Liam M says, Scotty, I have an '08 Acadia with 108,000 miles. It's in good shape. My mom replaced a lot on it. I'm thinking about trading it in for something smaller like a Toyota. Is it worth it? Well, it is. You're definitely going to have to pay more money. No one's going to swap you even a Toyota for something like that. But those things, They only got a limited lifespan. It's got 108,000 miles. If you get a Toyota, they can go 400,000 if you take care of them. It'd be a smart move. I mean, if you're not going to get much for that Acadia, it's 11 years old. I mean, some guys will just say, heck, I'll just drive it till the wheels fall off. And then do that. You're going to get nothing for it. See if you're trading that in what they give you. And they'll probably give you, $1,500 or something. So if you don't care, drive it. And if it lasts a few years, great. And if the engine or tranny starts going out, then junk it then and get another car. You're not going to get much for it anyways. I mean, I'm a big believer. If you got something that works, take care of it and drive it. And then if it breaks, get something better the next time. But if you're not going to get anything when you sell it, what the heck? Drive it till the wheels fall off. Rod79 says Scotty is a porn star. Well, actually, it's kind of a funny story. I almost was once. When I was going to school at the University of Illinois, writing my PhD, I had a picture of me sitting on James Dean, and it was published. It was nationally published in Easy Rider magazine. And I was sitting at my dorm room at the University of Illinois, and I get a phone call from Chicago. Now, this is in Urbana, Illinois. Chicago's about a 3-hour drive away. And this guy starts talking to me, and he says, hey, we want to star you in a porn movie where you're abusing airline stewardesses. I'm not making this up. I was, 22 years old at the time. And I was gracious, and I said, well, no thanks. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. But I could have been one, maybe. Who knows? Next question. Luis Gomez says, I got a 2012 Dodge Durango Citadel V8 Hemi. Are they good vehicles? Well, the Hemis are great engines. I got nothing against them. They make very good engines. Now, they're gas hogs. You get a horrible gas mileage in them. They're just gas hogs. That's how they are. But they're very reliable, well-built engines. They have a lot of power. Unfortunately, the rest of the vehicle that engine goes in isn't that great. They have ball joint problems. They have automatic transmission problems as they age. But they are very good engines. I'll give them that. I tell the truth about stuff, and they are good engines. I just wouldn't buy the vehicle because the rest of the vehicle isn't as good as the engine. Next question. Igor Majanovic says, Scotty, I have an '04 Jetta TDI with 480,000 miles. Whoa, the fourth gear is slipping. What's required to fix it? Okay. The only thing that's slipping is fourth gear. All the other ones aren't. You got to rebuild the transmission. It means the transmission's worn out. Hey, you got what? Did you say you had 480,000 miles? That's a lot of mileage. That's the thing. The standard transmissions that Volkswagen makes are pretty good. They're automatic stink, but the standards are good. So, and it's a diesel engine. They can last a long time. If you don't want to pay somebody to rebuild the whole transmission, heck, get a used one from a junkyard. Odds are that one's last 480,000 miles. Maybe you can find one with 180,000 miles and it'll last another 300,000. If you can't find anybody that can rebuild that transmission right, heck, get a used one, put it in. I have customers do that all the time. Next question. Drew Anastasio says, what do you think about 93 Honda Accords? Ooh, those were well-made vehicles. Back then, 26 years ago, Honda and Toyota, they were pretty much neck and neck of who building the best cars in the world. Honda's slipped down a lot more lately. But back then, those things were great cars. And back then, they made better automatic transmissions than they did in some of the newer ones. In the 93 Accords, I really didn't have any customers having problems with the transmissions back then. And if it's a standard transmission, woo, it'll last forever. So they were pretty well made back then. But of course, if you're thinking about buying one, realize you're thinking about buying a 26-year-old car. Stuff is going to break. I got a customer that bought an Accord, which a Prelude, which is pretty much the same version of that 93, other than a different body style. And a lot of stuff's just breaking because it's so freaking old. I mean, things break, wear out from friction. That happens with any car. Wilfredo Mendez says, should I get a Honda Pilot or a Toyota Highlander? Oh, the Highlander by far. I got a customer with a Highlander that's had 550,000 miles on it. Original engine and transmission. I've never seen a Honda Pilot last that long. The Honda Pilots are okay. But Honda, they started out as a motorcycle company. And they became a good car company. But they never really were a truck company. That was never their thing. The Honda Pilot, that's really the first truck they made. Before that, the passports, they were just rebadged. I think they were Zuzu rebadged. They didn't make them themselves. They're not a truck company, where Toyota makes much better trucks. Next question. Aaron M says, Scotty, what do you think about the Lexus SC430? Okay, here's the thing. Lexus makes great cars, but that's a V8 engine. And the V6 engines, like my wife's car, that's an LS 300 or the 330s, any of the V6 ones, the V6 ones actually last longer, get better gas mileage, and don't cost as much to maintain. Those V8s are well-made cars, but as they age, they cost a lot of money. I've had quite a few customers buy an old one. It's a V8 Lexus. And then they have to put a lot of money. Now, I mean, I'm talking about ones that have 200 to 300,000 miles or more, and things just wear out. But with the V6 ones, they tend to last longer. If you're thinking about getting a Lexus, I'd rather go for a V6 than a V8 if I were you. It makes more sense from what I've seen. Next question. Juan Sanchez says, I got an '06 G35 Infiniti. I just replaced the belts, but it still squeaks when the weather's below 40. Do you have any ideas how to fix it? Okay, if it has automatic tensioners, replace the tensioners. Because the tensioners get old, they don't tighten right, and they'll squeal. Now, if you have a brand new belt and it fits right, and you have a brand new tensioner, it still squeaks, that means that you have a problem in something that drives, like the alternator bearings are starting to wear out, or the power steering pump is starting to wear out, then it strains the belt too much and makes it squeak. But in your case, I'm assuming that either the automatic tensioner is bad or the belts themselves weren't tightened up enough, especially if they have manually adjusted fan belts. When you put those on, you have to actually run it for a few hours and then readjust them because they stretch a little bit as they're new and wear, and then you got to tighten them back up again. Next question. MT says, hey Scotty, is it bad to wait until it's empty to fill up a car? Is that a myth? Okay, well, in the olden days it meant more, because in the olden days fuel tanks were all made out of steel, stamped steel, because it's cheaper to make them. Eventually water would build up, it would rust inside, and all the rust and crud would stay in the bottom of the gas tank. And those are sump pumps. They got a little sump, and then there's a sump with a little cloth filter on it. So when you got low and it started sloshing around, it would suck that rust and crud in, and it would clog up the pump. Most cars for the last decade and a half, sometimes 2.5 decades, have plastic gas tanks because they're even cheaper to make. But plastic doesn't rust, so you never get any rust in them, so you don't really have to worry about it. But here's the thing. You never want to run out of gas in any car, any modern car, because your fuel pump is inside the gas tank. It's soaked in gasoline. It's to lubricate it and to cool it off. The gasoline cools it off. And if you actually do run out of gas, and that pump, instead of sucking gas, now sucks air because you ran out of gas, that air will burn the pump out. Because as nutty as it sounds, the gasoline running inside the pump is what lubricates the bearings of the pump. And when you run out of gas and it sucks air, the bearings are running on air and your fuel pump will burn out. And in some modern cars, it's a $1,500 job to change the fuel pump assembly. So you don't want to run it too low. Next question. Emmanuel Mitchell says, what do you think about the new Camaro? I am not a fan of GM. But Camaros are fun vehicles to drive around. Now, a lot of the new Camaros, they got the same tranny as the new Mustangs. Ford and Chevy had a joint venture, kind of weird, you know, cats and dogs getting together, it was weird. And they came up with this 10-speed automatic transmission. And the new Mustangs have it, and I know some of the new Camaros have the same exact one. It's a great bulletproof 10-speed automatic transmission with 3 overdrives. So that's great. And it's pretty strong engines in it too. I'm more of a Mustang fan myself, but for the stuff that GM makes, it's probably one of the better things that they do make. You spend a lot of money for them like anything else. When you drive them off the lot, a brand new one, you lose about half of your money. So It's your money. You can do whatever you want with it, but it's one of the better built cars that GM makes. Next question is Richard Hernandez. I got a 2005 CRV with 60,000 miles. Was it a good purchase? I can assume it is. I got customers with CRVs that have 350,000 miles and they're still running. 60,000 miles is nothing on one of those things. If the previous owner at least changed the oil in it regularly, you shouldn't be having any problems at all. You know, you got a good deal if that's the only mileage that it actually has on it. Next question. Captain Derp says, Scotty, are Geo Metros well made? I know they stopped making them in '01, and I keep seeing them driving around. How are they still driving? Okay, Geo Metros. The Metros were a 3-cylinder engine. And originally, I believe they were Suzuki 3-cylinder engines. I guess some of them later remained hungry or something, but GM had nothing to do with making the engines. They were very underpowered vehicles for the American market, and Americans are lazy. They always want automatic transmissions, and you get a tiny little engine with automatic transmission. They were terrible, and Americans don't change oil enough, so a lot of the engines burn out. But I had customers that bought them with standard transmissions, changed them oil all the time, and they loved them. They wanted a little jump runabout car, and they liked them, and they can still run. You know, you can make cars run if you take care of them. You know, the Russians were riding those Ladas around, and they had a little engine that was a 2-stroke engine that was the old starter motor for the Russian tanks, and they used that motor just to get the tank motor to start. And people kept them going for decades because that's all they had. So, you know, you can take care of them. And the only problem, of course, is getting parts for them because they pulled out of the United States a long time ago. And getting parts for them can be a pain in the butt. But, of course, you can get them so cheap, doesn't really matter. Next question. Steve Lee says, Scotty, is low mileage just as bad as high mileage at a certain age of a car being bought used? Being left standing too long. Of course, standing too long is bad for a car. There's no arguing that. You would actually have to know the history of a car if you were buying it used. For example, say you go to an estate sale. Maybe it's somebody's car that's passed away and it sat for 8 years and wasn't used hardly at all. Yeah, all the seals are dry and rotten. You don't want to buy a car like that. But if it's a car that somebody's only driving 2,000 to 3,000 miles a year, it's perfectly fine to buy that way. The metal of the engine isn't going to wear any out. But if you get a 20-year-old car, all those rubber seals are going to start wearing and cracking just from plain age. So that's the stuff that you have to check out if you were buying a car that was old and was low mileage. But generally, they're pretty good cars, as long as they're not all dry rotted. You're probably going to have to buy new tires if the tires are old, but a lot of the other stuff can be good. Just never pay much for a car that's really old. Doesn't matter how many miles it has on it. They're just not worth all that much money. Next question. Mr. Herrera says, a 2003 Mitsubishi Eclipse is for sale. The guy's selling for $1,200, but there's damage from hitting a deer. I might want to take it up my first project car. It runs and drives. 140,000 miles. Is it good buy? $1,200 and it's damaged? No. Body work costs a fortune. Now, if it's all smashed up in the front, but it still runs and stuff, he offered the guy $800 or something for it, because body work costs too much money to do correctly. And if you want to learn how to do it yourself, great. But you don't pay much for a body damaged car. Odds are the car's got more damage than the car's worth. If you had a car like that, if the guy lets you drive it to a body shop and say, what would it cost to fix this? And you'll find out it'll probably be 2 or 3 times what you're paying for the car. Now, if you can get it for, $800 or something, you want to try to fix it yourself, go right ahead. But I wouldn't put too much time and energy or money into a car like that if it hit a deer. Next question. Milkwin40 says, what do you think about a Mercedes 190E 2.0 gas engine? Okay. They're strong engines. They can run a long time if you change the oil regularly. A four-cylinder, 2-liter Mercedes engine is a well-made engine. That said, if it's got an automatic transmission, they're extremely slow vehicle. They're a heavy vehicle with a four-cylinder engine. And they were never that popular in the United States. Now, if you're in Europe and you're buying one that has a standard transmission, could be a very good, fun car to drive around. It's got enough horsepower to run a standard transmission, but it isn't that good for an automatic transmission. So, if it's in Europe and it's a standard transmission, go ahead. But if it's in the United States, it's automatic, I'd pass and buy something else. Next question. Aaron Ditchfield says, Scotty, I got a tapping noise from the rear brake after I changed the pads that were worn to the plates. Okay, first thing you want to do is look at the rotors. I got a recent video I just put up a few weeks ago called This is How You Fix Your Car When It's Shaking When You're Driving When You Brake. You want to check those rotors because if they're warped or you can feel ridges on them, you're going to have to change the rotors because that's going to make that noise. Or if you don't care, just live with the noise. It isn't going to hurt anything. You do want to check it, though. Make sure all the parts are in there tight, all the hardware's in, and that the bolts are on tight. You don't leave anything loose. But if you put everything on tight, odds are the rotor's worn. And if you don't care about the noise, live with it. But if you don't like the noise, buy new rotors. Aftermarket rotors these days are so cheap and easy to get, you could just replace them. They don't cost all that much. Next question. KJB Soldier says, I got a Nissan Altima with 157,000 miles. I change the oil every 3,000 miles. How much life do you think I have? Okay, the weakest things of those things were their automatic transmissions, and after that is the engines. If your engine does not burn oil now, maybe if it burns a quart between changes, that's nothing. But as long as it doesn't burn an excessive amount of oil, the engine's still in good shape and it might last a while. And if it's an automatic transmission, if it still shifts good, it could last a while. But if it burns a lot of oil, the engine or the transmission doesn't shift right, get rid of it now because they become endless money pits. Since it's with that mileage and its age, it's worth nothing anyways. So you might as well just take care of it and drive it and see. You never know. You never know. Next question is Peter Parent. What do you think about a 2014 Honda CR-V EXL with 36,000 miles made in Canada? Oh, this is a great vehicle. Canadians know how to make cars. I went to my first university, York University in Toronto, in Canada, obviously, and I know guys that worked in the factories there. And they did excellent work. They made great vehicles. I had a Ford Maverick that was made in Oakville, Ontario. It was one of the best vehicles I ever had. I paid $500 for it, and I drove it for 10 years all over North America, down to Texas, all over the place. Canadians make good cars. You buy one that's made in Canada? My wife's old Matrix, that's now my car, it was made in Cambridge, Ontario. Canadians make good cars, If I get a choice to buy a car, if I can get one made in Canada, believe me, I'll buy one. Next question. M1A2149 says, Scotty, I have an 85 Ford Mustang. Which engine should I swap? Should I rebuild the 5.0? Rebuild the 5.0 or get a long block 5.0 that's already been remanufactured. Those are great engines. They're strong. They can last a long time. Those are good engines. I wouldn't start swapping. You start swapping things. It's modern enough, 85. It's fuel injected. If you swap the engines, you're going to have to do all kinds of computer reprogramming and sensors and wiring it. It would be a giant pain in the butt. And the 5 liters are very good engines. Next question. FC says, what are your thoughts about a 2013 Ford Show with 24,000 miles? Okay, the Show engines, they're good engines. They can zip around. Now, as you get old and age, they can have a lot of problems and cost a lot of money to fix. But that thing's only got 24,000 miles. But it's 6 years old. So if you're talking about buying a used one, get it as low as you can. They depreciate like mad. If you can get it to a price that you're happy with, and you road test it and take it to a guy like me who hooks up his fancy scan tool and after about an hour says, hey, it's in good shape, doesn't have any problems, you get it for a good price, it can be a fun vehicle to drive around in. They cost an awful lot new. I mean, you bought one new, you're probably not going to get your money's worth, but it's 6 years old now. You get a good price on it. Hey, why not? Next question. Michael Quinlog said, Scotty, I'm planning on buying a minivan. Which should I get, a Toyota Sienna or an Odyssey? Get a Sienna by far. Like I said before, the Odysseys had horrible automatic transmissions. Some of them, the cams would wear and they'd slide back and forth. You had to rebuild the whole engine. You never see that in the Sienna. I got a customer with a Sienna that's got 450,000 miles. Original Lenny and transmission and air conditioning still blows cold. Definitely go with a Toyota on that one. Well, that's it for this week. Remember, every day of the week, I upload a new video on the Scotty Kilmer channel, so subscribe and hit that bell so that you never miss another one and get notified. And I'm here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live answering your questions, and Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I'll catch you on Saturday if I don't see you then.